Why are you choosing Jared Goff this year when you hated on him last year? Do I think the Lions can win this week despite their offensive injuries? Now, you may be surprised at what I have to say, considering I haven't picked the Lions yet this season. Now, I've wanted to be wrong every week. I'm 2-1. They're 1-2. So let's see who I picked this week. Let's take a look at the top guys for each team. We're going to start with their star wide receivers. We have for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown against Tyler Lockett for the Seattle Seahawks. How will St. Brown's ankle injury impact his production? I think it's going to play a big role because St. Brown is averaging 6 yards after the catch. He knows what to do with it when it's in his hands. But if you go back and look at the Minnesota game, he was hobbled. Once he got hobbled and once he got injured, it was not the same St. Brown that we were used to. He couldn't get the separation. He didn't have the burst up feel. He couldn't get in and out of his breaks the same, and that played a role, and there were more passes defended against him than what we've previously have seen and that we're used to. Lockett on the other end has an 84% receiving percentage. That's a big deal because he's dependable. And the fact that he's done this over a period of time, he's had 1,000-yard seasons. He's been double-digit touchdowns. He knows how to play the game. I'm going to have to go here, given the fact that you got St. Brown, who is injured. I'm going to go with Lockett. Now, there's going to be a change for me this week at the number 2 spot. In the previous weeks, I've talked about DJ Chark as being that number 2 guy for the Detroit Lions. But Josh Reynolds, he's earned his way up. He's going to be looking across the line, and he's going to be looking on the other side of the field at DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is really, I say he's a number 2, but he's really a number 1A for the Seattle Seahawks. But I've moved Reynolds up for a reason. Why did I move him up to that number 2 spot? Because he's been dependable. He's got 0 drops. 0 drops. He's been targeted not a ton of times, but when he has been, the man has come through. He's been dependable. That's why I have him at the number 2 spot. DK Metcalf, on the other hand, for Seattle, he's a little bit of a surprise because this is a big player. This is a big wide receiver. He's got the speed. He's got the breakaway ability. He can break the game open. But he's only averaging 8 yards per catch. It's a head scratcher. But given the experience and given the fact that he has double-digit touchdowns, he knows what it feels like to have 1,200 yards in a season receiving. He's got the experience there. I'm going to go with Metcalf. Now, for the third wide receiver spot, we have DJ Chark, which I told you I moved him from number 2 down to number 3 against Marquise Goodwin. Now, Chark has been targeted 18 times, but he's only come down with it 7 times. That's not very good for someone that the Lions are depending on in that position. So I'm giving the nod to Chark. And you may go, well, why are you giving the nod to him? The Lions are starting to move him around. If you look at the game against Minnesota, he was in the slot 13 times compared to only 10 times in the previous 2 games. And with Goodwin, I don't see him playing as much of a role for Seattle, given the fact that he's got the other big 2 wide receivers. So I'm going with Chark here. I think that depending on what happens with Brown, depending on his injury, that may determine how valuable he becomes for this Detroit Lions football team. Now, at the tight end position, you got TJ Hockenson, you got Noah Fant. Now, Fant, he's not used as much in the Seattle offense. I just don't know if he would be much of a consideration or a factor in their game plan. But Hockenson, on the other hand, he's got to get back to the production that we expect. Because when he's doing his thing, when he's playing with the confidence, which I think is kind of falling off a little bit, if he can regain that and the Lions can regain confidence and figure out a way to get him the ball, their third down efficiency is going to go up. I'm going to pick Hockenson in this one. I think the Lions can't afford to go away from him. They got to stick with him. Now, let's look at the running backs. DeAndre Swift, and you got Rashaad Penny. I'm going to give this one to Swift. You're going to go, well, why are you giving it to Swift when he's hurt? Well, here's why. Because with Jamaal Williams and DeAndre Swift, it's like running back by committee. You got 2 guys. When Swift goes out, I don't think any of us get surprised or get bothered by the fact that you have a Jamaal Williams in there. He's been productive. He runs just as hard. He has the passion. So I see that as being really the tale of two backs, and you can't go wrong with either one. So I'm going with Swift, but I'm going to put in parentheses Williams, because if Swift can't go, I'm going with Williams. Let's look at the quarterback matchup. Jared Goff, Geno Smith. Many of you are probably going, now why are you choosing Jared Goff this year when you hated on him last year? First and foremost, people, I didn't hate on Jared Goff. I like Jared Goff. I just don't think he played well. I don't think he had the same tools to work with. He didn't have the same wide receivers. He didn't have the same solid running game. The offensive line hadn't quite come together like it's come together this year. The commitment to the running game, the play action, and letting him pick and choose these type of passes, they weren't there. That's why you have a different Jared Goff. That's why I pick a guy like Jared Goff to play better. Geno Smith, high completion percentage, 77.5, but I'm still giving the edge to Goff, because I see a more confident quarterback. I see a quarterback who has stepped into the leadership position for this offense. He is a guy that I go now. I say, if the Lions are going to go, Goff has to go with them. He's got to take them there. The running game's got to be there. The offensive line's got to be there, but he's got to be that guy that leads the charge. So I'm going with Goff. Now, let's see who I gave the edge to in this final set here. At wide receiver, I went with Seattle. Running back, I went Detroit. QB, I went with Detroit. In the offensive line, I went with Detroit. And Seattle, they have, in my opinion, probably one of the worst offensive line units in the NFL. I'm not saying that to be mean, but they rank down near the bottom. So I'm giving my game edge, drum roll, to the Detroit Lions. Don't let me down. Don't hurt my record. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Wide Receiver Wednesday. I'll see you next time, and thank you for watching.
Perfect.